So after some of the recent changes with Zigbee2MQTT in doing the supervisor or HAOS, or if you've been around for a while, you probably still call it HASIO, and you probably might still be confused of like, hey, how do I install this Zigbee2MQTT thing and be part of the cool gang, right? Well, if you're just going to use ZHA and this might not be for you, so probably just smash the thumbs down and tell me how much I suck and hit the road.
Goodbye.
But if you want to learn something to see how you can be part of like decoupling things and have just more of a more robust, in my opinion, Zigbee network that's a little more flexible and easier to use and not tied to some of the upgrades of Home Assistant, well, Zigbee2MQTT might be for you. But wait, I don't want to see MQTT. I don't know. You don't have to dig into MQTT. What I'm going to do is going to go through in a fresh, nothing really installed on this box except for Home Assistant OS. It's just onboarded. There's nothing else, no add-ons, and we're going to kind of fumble through it and see if we can get Zigbee2MQTT installed. So let's get to it. Now, on the Zigbee2MQTT website, which is just Zigbee2MQTT, IO, you're going to hear me call it Z2M, same thing, because yeah, Zigbee2MQTT is a mouthful. Well, if you're wondering what devices are supported, right there. Don't go to some other sketch website that has a approved or certified list. Just go to the source. It's right there on their website. Has all the things and all the deals. And then on here, you also have the supported adapters, which the adapter, you hear a lot of people call them coordinators, and or maybe you want to call them routers. Well, that's a whole thing. I've got some other Zigbee videos, and we're not going to try to go in that in depth. But the adapter, or you want to call it basically the radio, the chip that talks to Home Assistant and connects the Zigbee network to does all the magic, basically. Well, they're all listed here. They all have links to them, and they all have different stuff on how to upgrade them. I'll leave some of the stuff down below. The one I do like is the CC2652 chipset. At this time, it's probably just one of the favorites out there. And you say, why is that? Well, the thing just freaking works. And it works well in ZHA as well. So if you want to go back to that, go right ahead. The one I'm using for, I know everybody's, well, what do you use? Well, I'm using that Sonoff Zigbee 3.0 dongle. There's that word, that wonderful dongle word, that dongle plus. And we'll say dongle again just for the fun of it, right? And that's also based on that CC2652. There are some Ethernet ones. I know some people have different types of VMs and stuff and passing USB through, or maybe they just don't want to plug in USB to their server rack or whatever it may be. There's network-based ones that you can do for their power over Ethernet or not, and they work great as well. I highly recommend the Tubes Zigbee gateways. They're excellent network-based ones, and yeah, he just pretty much does them himself, so we'll support the small guy. But hey, I'm sure there's some other ones out there as well, just not familiar with them.
This is Zigbee coordinator. This is cool and stuff.
Now, if you are doing the installation, you would say, hey, I'm gonna get started, right? And go to the installation, and yeah, then your eyes start to glaze over because, again, you're probably not doing the command line thing since you are doing HAOS. And if you are doing, if you're doing Linux and you think, go over here, well, your eyes probably glaze over a little more. But hey, you probably, if you know all that stuff, you're probably not watching the beginning of this video. Maybe catch some of the tail end, maybe learn a little bit about Zigbee2MQTT as well. So we're going to come down here. I have done the one for Docker with Unraid, but this does Docker Compose as well. And they also have down here for the Home Assistant add-on. And so we jump to the instructions here, but there's not a whole lot of instructions at this time. So, and I see people get confused in Discord. Well, let's just go through it. So the first thing we do need to do is add this repository URL under supervisor, add-on store. Well, that may be confused some because that terminology has changed. And well, we're just going to go ahead and hit this button here, and that's going to copy that link to our clipboard. So then we'll come over here and really change. It does confuse me at times. We'll come in here to settings, and we are looking for the add-ons, and go to the add-on store, and you start to say, well, hey, let me just type in Zigbee. Well, that's only decons in there. Well, we're not installing that one. Well, if you see the little 3 buttons up here, and you should see repositories, and just paste in what we copied and hit add. And immediately you could see from behind there, it did pull in, and we have the 2 to pick from. Let's go ahead and pick this one. You're welcome to pick Edge, and go ahead and click install. And then while it's installing, if you want to and you haven't, you should probably go check out one of my videos or go back to those links and go upgrade the firmware to the latest version. As of the recording of this video, I think it's 2022 February is the version. Don't have any problems with that. I think it's the stable listed firmware for that CC2652. Highly recommend the latest firmware on your Zigbee, USB, or even the Ethernet coordinator. Now you may be tempted, well, I'm just going to smash start. Can't do that just yet. So you jump over to configuration. This is where it can get confusing. You got this data path. It's filled out for you. That's great. So cat. Well, what about the cat? No, I don't. Just don't worry about it. Let the cat do its thing. MQTT, remember? I said don't worry about it. We're not going to worry about it. But we do need to install MQTT, and I'll show you how difficult. Well, it's not difficult. The port. This is the part that can be confusing of, hey, where do I go get this port information? Well, if you're using the USB one, you can go do a simple copy and paste. If you are using the Ethernet one, then you need to put in the IP and the port, but I'll show you both of them just in case. So where do I find my port? Do make sure that you have your USB adapter passed into, if you're using some sort of VM like with VirtualBox or something like that. If you're just using straight hardware like we are using here, I'm using that Optiplex one that I did the video or 2 ago, and just plug in the USB. I highly recommend a USB extension cord to get that away from your box. Just kind of let it breathe and let it listen without, a bunch of nearby electronics. This is how you go get the port information. If you come over here to settings and go to system, and then looking for hardware, and you got to kind of dig deep, but hey, I like to copy and paste and say all hardware. Now, you may be tempted just to put that TTY USB. Well, I would highly recommend not to do that because it can change. So come in here and I like to type in serial, and you'll see it right there. You type in serial, sometimes I type in by space ID. That might be, even narrows it down even further, I bet. You can see it right there by ID. Yours may be different. I am using that Zigstar one, so they labeled it a little differently. The Sonoff one is labeled differently. They're all going to have these probably a little bit different labeled ports based on what the flash is set to. But what you need to do is just copy this entire part right here. Now, if yours is longer, and
that's what she said,
and you can use that one or this one, it should be the same. Just make sure and copy it to your clipboard. So if you go back to settings, add-ons, it should be grayed out because it's not started. Now under the serial section, just type in port : space, and then paste in what you had in the clipboard. That's that long string of things. Now, if you are using the Ethernet one, I would highly recommend is assign it a reserved, or even if you have to, a static IP, but a lot of people, they'll call it DHCP reserve, or they'll call it static DHCP. All the routers call them different names, but give it a reserved IP where it never changes the IP address, because yeah, it's going to change IPs whenever you're not home. It's Murphy's Law, and then it's going to piss off the significant other because the stuff doesn't work. You'll do the same thing for port, but you'll put TCP :// and then the IP address of it. Say it's 192.168.1.20. And most of them use, like the tubes ones, they use 6638, but do verify whatever Zigbee Ethernet adapter you use on what the actual port it needs to be. And I'll scroll down here, and that's the only option I'm going to fill out, and I'm going to hit save. Now, we can't start it just yet because I kind of did things backwards. Yeah, I don't follow the rules a lot. Is we do need to add MQTT. Now, that is one of the official ones. So we'll just go to Mosquito Broker, click it, click install, boom. No special configuration. We'll go ahead and make sure it's start on boot, and then we'll go ahead and hit start. And if you really want to, you can come over here and check the log and make sure it's doing its thing. Yep, boom, boom, boom. We're good to go. Go to services, and here we are. I've got right here MQTT is telling me it discovered that, and I'm going to hit configure and hit submit and hit finish. That's pretty much it for the configuration on it. It's that difficult. So it's the first start. It may take a little bit. You may be tempted to go ahead and just smash open web UI, and you may get like a 502 bad gateway error or whatnot. Zigbee2MQTT, especially after maybe you did a upgrade of the USB stick or a new one or whatever, give it a second, make sure, give it a little bit to start up, about 30-45 seconds, if not a little longer, depending on what device you're using. And yeah, I rambled enough, and boom, Zigbee2MQTT is ready to go right now. But don't click off yet. I suggest some configuration items. Don't leave it bone stock. Trust me, don't. But if you're dangerous, whatever. So let's talk about network keys. You want it to be unique and you want it to be yours. So let's make our own network key and network ID. And the cool part is they now allow you to use the generate after I nagged them enough about this, which is great. So how do we do that? Well, first thing, let's go look at channels first. If you'll notice, when you come in here to settings and you go to advanced, the channel is set to channel 11. The channel 11 is actually going to get interference from channel 1 on Wi-Fi. I would choose 15, 20, or 25 for your Zigbee channels. Now, regardless of whatever, I know you can't control your neighbor or whatever, what their Wi-Fi is using. If you have multiple access points in your home, make sure you are using 1, 6, or 11 of Wi-Fi. And know the numbers do not relate. So 11 does not equal Wi-Fi 11. They did it to confuse all of us. Perfect. And also come down here to a couple things I change on mine is the last scene. I'll change this to ISO 8601 local. Leave all this default. And down here you have network key. You have the string. And just type the word generate. You can see I've done it before. The PAN ID to a string. And we're going to also put generate. Basically, it just makes a random one for you. Now, do keep in mind, if you go back and do this anytime after you've added devices, you will need to repair those back up. But we don't have any devices paired up, so we're good to go on that. So I got that as generate, and this is totally optional. Is with the CC2652P, I think it is, it allows us to go up to 20. Probably don't need to go to 20. I'm going to set this as 9. It's a good number out there. And then we're going to hit submit. What we've just done, if we go to restart Zigbee2MQTT, we're going to trigger a feature that allows us to not break our network. Because if you didn't know you were doing this and you changed the stuff and you restarted it and you would break your network and you had 100 devices, you could be pissed, right? Well, there's a feature in here that prevents us from doing that. So what we need to do is just go to settings, and I'm going to show you that it's going to break. So we'll hit restart, and you'll notice now it's saying this network ID, there's a mismatch. Well, don't freak out. Look at this right here. You want to recommission your network. Please remove the coordinator backup, because Zigbee2MQTT is going to back up your network all the time. So, keep that in mind. You should do your other backups to back up the backup. And it stops. It won't start. So we need to go delete that file. It's really simple. Well, we need to put the add-on first. So if you don't have Samba or something or whatever to go delete that file, then you can simply go in here and add the add-on to remove the file. And there it is. We'll do the file editor. That one should be simple to do. We'll get blinded by the white mode. Blinded by the light. It's come over here down to Zigbee2MQTT. We just need to delete the one file, this coordinator backup JSON file. So just hit the little three dots. You can delete that file. You're sure you want to delete the backup? And yes, we do. And I do believe that the Zigbee2MQTT is in a loop constantly trying to start. So it should, by the time I ramble enough, as we get back over there and see that the add-on probably will be started by now. And while we're there, we'll go ahead and make sure start on boot. Oh, and I want to show this in sidebar. And let's see if we can get the web UI going. And sure enough, rocking and rolling. Let's just verify. Go to settings, go to advanced, and you should see there's our channel is set and all of our stuff. And it's probably not going to show you the generate stuff anymore, but the key's actually inside that configuration YAML if you really want to go look at it. Just don't change it. You can see here's our PAN ID. There's one thing I do like to change in here is the availability. I'll go ahead and I do like to turn on availability because that will poll the devices, and we do have a fast enough coordinator to do that, and it will let us know if something is online or offline. And that's pretty much about it that you need to do to set up something. So if you want to go pair your devices up, we'll just hide this little thing over here. And if you don't know this, I think default it must have went to there. The little moon here, if you really hate dark mode, which you might be weird, and you want the blinding white mode, is you can just toggle that right there. Now, to add something is just go ahead and hit the permit join and then follow the instructions on your Zigbee device. And a lot of times it's like maybe powering off and on. If it's a light bulb a number of times or something else, you just hold the button and put it into pairing mode. So I've got one of my favorite, the little hue motion sensors, and we can just hit permit join and make sure you do have this in pairing mode. I can see this thing is blinking, and be patient. It should join up to your network. And there we got it joining, starting the interview. Let it do its thing, let it chill. Now at this point, you'll see the friendly name is definitely not friendly. And I'll just go over here and hit the little pencil. Of course, your screen's not going to be shrunk like mine. And I'll go ahead and give this some sort of friendly name. And we may call this like living room motion. So rename the device. And it looks like you have to put them separate apparently. We'll just put battery May 20. And you can see it puts it right there. Good idea, because you're never going to remember, when did I change that battery? Well, there it is. And if you really want to go in here, you can look at the device and see what everything it does. Battery 100%, interview completed true. And if you ever you got an issue where it's like interview completed false or there's some weirdness, just try to pair it up again. And that sometimes does happen. And then under exposes, this one's pretty cool. It has the temperature, occupancy, you can set the motion sensitivity, the LED indicator, the timeout, etc. And then you have the link quality. The link quality, don't freak out over the link quality too much unless it's like really, really super low, because some of the battery devices are going to turn themselves down and whatnot. And it's just sometimes a magic number. Now, if it's 0, then I would kind of freak out about it. But it's going to be a number anywhere from 0 to 255. I've got these probably 10, 12 foot apart, and it's showing 83 out of 255. No big deal. It's not perfect signal, but hey, it works great. And I also would recommend pairing in place. Don't follow that thing of like, got to bring it next to the coordinator or the device and pair it there and then put it. You're actually creating more issues doing that. Pair up all your mains power, your plugs, light switches first. That builds out your mesh, and then pair up your battery devices after that. But they will all fix themselves anyway. Now you may be asking, well, how do we add this to Home Assistant? Well, it actually already is. Through the magic of auto discovery, it's going to be already in there. And since we are using just that stock dashboard Lovelace, or what I don't think they call it Lovelace anymore, it's just going to automatically it's going to add everything to it. Yeah, it's everything up there, as you can see. The temperature and the occupancy detected and the motion and yeah. You should probably go do your own little custom dash by now, but of course this is just a new box, so it's going to add everything to it. And if you are looking for them, they are going to be under devices. It's going to be under MQTT. If you look under here, you'll see we have the one device, 8 entities. And here's the entities. It's going to be in there, and the device. I think I only have one device, so it's going to show just this. But all your devices will pop up under MQTT, because Zigbee2MQTT is just going to drop them in there. Home Assistant picks them up automatically. It's stupid simple on how you bring things in. And it shouldn't be this crazy to install, but sometimes it might be. It kind of can be confusing at times. So if you are getting stuck on things and how you want to use some of this, and hey, how do I do OTA? And yeah, it's that simple to do OTA, to do the map. And you can see I'm just clicking as I'm talking, and you can come in here and check for new updates and see if there's new updates. Sometimes if it says failed, there may not be an image available for this one. If it is, the updates do take a while, but don't freak out, just let it eat. And that's it pretty much for trying to get to use Zigbee2MQTT with Home Assistant. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you learned something here, how to quickly throw in Zigbee2MQTT. If you get stuck on things, or things totally change and this video becomes really screwed up, just jump on down there in that Discord link down at the bottom of the video description and come jump in and ask for some help. There's a bunch of friendly people out there and get you started and going with Zigbee2MQTT. So thanks y'all, Patreon subscribers, YouTube subscribers. Couldn't do it without you. And yep, you know the drill. Click on them buttons. And y'all take care.
She get to the cash when she walk. She look like a bad when she walk. She get to the cash when she walk. She look like a bad when she walk. Girl, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. Girl, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. Yeah, we get to it, got it stocked up, popped up, got her hand all rocked up. Like 1 carat, 2 carat, more carats. She look carrots like a bunny, got her hops up. Don't care for designer, got her own drip. Don't care for the phones, got her own.
Which one are we? So I have to throw up every time it goes up.
Up or down?
Both. Up is the worst.
Why don't you can just throw up all there.
Just do it, right? At least you didn't have anything to eat. We didn't eat yet.
Yeah, right?
So you don't have to throw up.
But hey, when you throw, did you get to taste your food the second time?
Yeah, but it tastes worse because there's stomach contents with it.
Oh wait. Is that cool when you get to taste your food the second time? No? Okay.
You like fighting Carly too much. God.
She look like a bad when she walk. Girl, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. Girl, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it.